Well, LSU had some success last season with first-year head coach Brian Kelly. We need to talk about it, guys. But if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And by doing so, it greatly helps out my channel and it helps me grow as a content creator. Well, Brian Kelly in his first year coming from Notre Dame was able to come in the SEC and beat Alabama in his first year and make it to the SEC championship. And that's huge, guys, considering, with Brian Kelly coming in, he said in, the offseason before last season that, he wanted to come to the SEC and be able to beat Nick Saban. And he was able to do it in his first season, guys. And what would LSU look like in 2023? I did some research, guys, and LSU is going to have a lot of production coming back on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to just read off some stuff to you. Like I said, they're returning several key players on the offensive line. Most of his rushing yards, 1,000-yard receiver and Malik Neighbors, very, very good player. And of course, they bring back Jaden Daniels. This was the guy that was a transfer from Arizona State, and he was able to come in and make some noise for LSU, guys. Not the best passer down the field, but he's very, very lethal with his legs. And for the most of the season, he was LSU's leading rusher. He could take off at any time and hard to tackle. But he's coming back, guys, and that's going to be huge for LSU going forward. And LSU had like 14 different receivers, in 2022. And of his 14 leading receivers, LSU is set to return 10 of them. So that should give you a little background on how much production that they're bringing back. Now, of course, they got, significant losses in Kayshawn Butte and Jeray Jenkins, leaving and everything like that. But they still enter, before the spring, they're going to still have their top 5 rushers from 2022. So, like I said, a lot of production coming back. And their O-line last season had some freshman tackles. And those guys are going to be back. So, they played last year as freshmen, and they got the experience. So LSU is going to have, more experienced players. And like I said, a lot of offensive, firepower. And then plus, Alabama lost, Aaron Anderson, the #1 wide receiver for 2022 in the state of Louisiana. And he was a guy that we thought, was going to get some playing time for Alabama last season. And he decided to come back home to Louisiana. So that's another guy that can possibly get some playing time. I expect him to be on like special teams and stuff like that. But hey, we all know LSU recruits very, very well at the wide receiver position, and he might be able to crack it, the lineup. But definitely a guy to look out for this upcoming season. Now, defensively, LSU is losing, a lot of guys at cornerback, and we all know LSU is very, very good at developing talent on the back end. But they're going to have some guys coming in. I'm going to read off, stats, a couple of guys that's coming in. They got Zy Alexander coming in, J.K. Johnson, Darian Chestnut, and Denver Harris. And those guys are going to be tasked with coming in. Zy Alexander, he's never been in the SEC. So, it's going to be a guy, he's going to have to learn, come in right away and try to, make some noise. But a guy that I'm looking at that I definitely think can crack the lineup is J.K. Johnson. This guy, he's very familiar with LSU's, cornerbacks coach, which is Robert Steeples. That was his high school coach. So even with that, though, it's going to probably be tough later for him to start, because LSU recruits at a very, very high level at the DB position. But definitely a guy that can come in, help LSU out, coming out of the portal. LSU went into the portal last season, and it paid dividends, guys. They had a rough start, when the season started, losing to Florida State, a team that they're going to play again this season. And like I said, I did a video on Jordan Travis. He's a very, very good, player. And LSU's defense is going to have to, shut him down because he gave a lot of teams problems this season. But defensively, like I said, they're going to have to shore up the secondary. They're losing guys like B.J. Ojolari, Ali Gay. They're gone, to the NFL. Mason Smith is a guy, very, very good player, man. He was hurt all last season. He had a torn ACL. But he's definitely, I expect him to step up for LSU this season. And of course, they got guys like Makai Wingo. He's coming back. But let me tell you a guy we need to look out for. He did very, very good last season. That's Harold Perkins. This guy, the linebacker. Um, they had they played us pretty good, guys. For the most part, Bryce Young, for the most part, couldn't even scramble out the pocket because he was set there to spy on Bryce Young. This guy did that as a freshman, so just imagine what he's going to be like this upcoming season on defense side of the ball. So, but an interesting thing I was reading about this article, guys, it said the last time LSU returned this much, production on offense, it was in 2019. We all know what happened with LSU that year in 2019. They had Joe Burrow, and he just had a phenomenal season, and they went on to win the whole thing, guys. But I'm not comparing, that team, to that team, because Jaden Daniels, he's pretty good, but I think he's, nowhere near as good as Joe Burrow. But they're going to have stability on the offensive side of the ball, which is going to be very, very important going into this next season. And it says Daniels is LSU's first returning starter at quarterback since Joe Burrow. So that just goes to show you, LSU, like I said, after that 2019 season, they kind of fell off. 2020 was the year. Uh, we didn't really expect to have a football season that year, and it puts a lot of players back. As far as being able to recruit properly and stuff like that. But having this team, that they're having coming back on offensive side of balls, LSU fans should be optimistic, And then, of course, they're, returning their entire staff as well, offensive staff. So, in my opinion, with Brian Kelly at the helm, I'm expecting LSU from now on to get at least 10 win seasons going forward, guys. LSU recruits at a very, very high level. Um, I always get nervous when we play against LSU. That's the team, in my opinion, that always, after we get off of that game, a lot of injuries, tough game. We win Baton Rouge and lost last season. They played us tough. I look forward to that game every year. But this year, Alabama's going to host them, but they bring a lot of offensive firepower, defense, wise. Matt House did a phenomenal job for them last season, and he's only going to get better. Got the NFL experience. He's going to bring that to the defense, and it's going to be interesting to see what LSU does this upcoming season, guys. And year 2 under Brian Kelly, what are we going to expect from him? But what do you guys think? You think LSU is going to improve on from what they did last season and continue to challenge LSU? I mean, not LSU, but Alabama for, the West Division. We all know the divisions are going to be done away with, and it's going to be interesting to see what Brian Kelly does. Um, did he catch Alabama at a bad time, or was he just really, really good at, coaching his team up? In my opinion, he's really, really good at coaching his team, and I'm not knocking Notre Dame, but he inherited a much better team, in my opinion, talent-wise. It just, if you look at recruiting, LSU is right there at the top 10 just about every year. So with the players that he has now, do you think Brian Kelly is going to make a run for it again in the SEC and possibly win the SEC West this season? You guys let me know in the comment section. Then once again, guys, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll definitely be back with more college football content. Thanks, guys, and roll tide.